And in this session, we will be talking about the hurdles, as the name suggests, and sharing not only the successful journey, but also what are the barriers and struggles that entrepreneurs face during their entrepreneurial journey. So without further ado, I would like to start with Marcus Wilhelm. So Marcus, welcome. Please tell us a bit about your background and how Mowoot came about and what the journey looked like for you and looking for you at the moment.
Yeah, thank you, Melis. I have a PhD in microbiology, and I brought a little presentation to accompany me here. Let's see. First hurdle today is sharing the screen. Do you see my full screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. So you said it already, we are a growth stage medical device company, not a startup anymore, and our focus is intestinal transit disorders. Basically, my journey started in 2013 when I joined the DHealth Barcelona program, which is a program for needs-driven innovation, and it's part of the EIT Health Innovation Fellowships. In a nutshell, this program basically, the methodology behind it is like we want to identify unmet clinical needs in real contact with the patients and the market, then invent a disruptive technology and implement this in a sustainable business model to make sure that that this innovation really reaches the patient, right? And in our case, we have been 2 months in a neuro-rehabilitation hospital, Institut Guttmann. In these 2 months, we detected over 600 unmet needs. And after a methodological filtering process, we got down to 400 business opportunities and finally decided to solve one big need. And this need was chronic constipation. It's probably surprising for most of you, but chronic constipation affects up to a quarter of the general population. And just for Europe and the United States, that's 250 million people, generating an annual cost of 100 billion euros. It's something that you don't talk about, and that's why it's so underserved, right? Those who suffer the most are actually patients with neurological disorders like spinal cord injury, multiple sclerosis, or Parkinson's disease. Basically, everybody you see where the movement on the outside is restricted, also the gut movements are restricted, and that results in chronic constipation, 80% of them. And of course, a lot of the elderly people. We detected that the side effects or the consequences for them basically ranged from simply embarrassing, like fecal incontinence, to life-threatening conditions like fecal impaction, colorectal cancer, etc. And then we took a look at the standard of care, what's out there. And basically, right now, all the clinical guidelines recommend a step-by-step approach that is heavily relying on pharmacological and invasive solutions. At the first step, they recommend fixing your diet, drink more, move more. That's not an option for these chronic constipated patients. So a next step is of laxatives and constipation drugs is then added in, and they usually have a lot of side effects. The next step would be transanal irrigation, which is a fancy word for large traumatizing daily enemas of up to 2 liters of volume. And the last resort is surgical solutions, for example, a stoma, what is an opening in your abdominal wall, and you carry around a bag with you all day with your feces in it. You know, what all these solutions had in common were actually a lot of side effects and also high costs to the healthcare system. And we saw in our interviews with the patients, and the recent research is confirming that after 5 years of intensive treatment, over 50% of patients still remain symptomatic. So our goal was to change that with a purely physical, non-drug and non-invasive solution that does not have the side effects of the other solutions out there, and also is more cost effective, you know. And that's how we developed our device. You can see it here. It's on the market actually. Our device can be used in the privacy of your home. You just sit or lie down comfortably, just 10 minutes, up to 20 minutes once a day, even feels nice and relaxing. And our device consists of a desktop that controls and generates the treatment via pneumatic technology. That's simply compressed air. And that allows us to use, on the other side, to use a really lightweight belt that with real-time pressure sensors that administers the treatment, right? And inside the belt, you can then see there's 4 elements that inflate and deflate alongside the large intestine. Basically, they're emulating the natural colonic movement patterns and thus resolving constipation. And this treatment is inspired by professional manual abdominal massage in physiotherapy and developed in collaboration with a hospital where we detected the need. So I set our devices on the market. Here you see it. It's CE certified as a Class 2A medical device. Since 2018 available, and we're also certified with the ISO 13485 gold standard for medical device developers. So this is the last thing that I do pitch-wise, right? So this is just to show you it also works fantastic. This is just an example of all our clinical data, the bowel movement frequency. How many times do people go to the toilet? Before it was 2 or 3 times a week using other solutions, and with our device it's daily. And that's basically the gold standard. This is also the reason, these positive results, that our treatment is already recommended in clinical guidelines in Germany and UK and reimbursed by private and public healthcare providers. So let's take a step back and look at what I was just telling you. So we detected a need in early 2014, right? Then we developed an idea, proof of concept, proof of feasibility, proof of value, company constitution in November 2014. And basically all this, what you see here, are hurdles, right? Right now, we are in the fortunate situation that we are recommended already in some countries in the local clinical guidelines. So this is almost a full circle of innovation. We detected an unmet need in the current standard of care, and now we are about to become the new standard of care, right? And it took us like 3 to 4 years from idea to market. And you see, we are still working these last steps to really become the standard of care. We're still working on that, you know. And the graphic that you just saw, all these hurdles and on the road that we had to take, basically sums up our approach: needs-driven innovation. We think that your number one job is to de-risk your business. Right? All these hurdles, you need to address them as soon as possible to try to mitigate them. You cannot avoid them, but you can confront them prepared. And how do you do that, actually? A good approach for this is validating your assumptions as early as possible. For example, was something like the lean startup feedback loop. It's basically, for all you alumni out there, the scientific method applied to the creation of a company. So you have an idea, a hypothesis, that then you build an experiment or product or prototype and test it in the real markets. You know, it can be just interviews, it can be prototype testing. Then you, from the feedback that you get, you then adjust your initial assumption and then go through the cycle again and again and again and again until you get it right. Okay, and that's how we did it. We identified a clinical unmet need. You see here photos from 2013, 2014 at hospital Institut Guttmann. What we did is observe and listen, and listen and listen and listen. The next phase, we started prototyping. And how did we evaluate these prototypes? Well, you see like the first really mock-ups there, 2014, then to becoming real, more medical devices. We took them to the hospital, to the medical doctors, and then we tested and listened and listened and listened and listened, right? And finally, when we already got the product, and earlier on, we started evaluating all the other stakeholders. So there's sales channels, there's reimbursement authorities, there, you know, and basically you should, as early on, find out the roadmap that you want to navigate, and then listen, 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 and learn, right? And if we look at this graphic that I showed you initially, identify, invent, implement. So these little arrows here are basically the feedback loop, you know, that you go over and over and over and over again until you get it right. And the first here, what we're creating is the so-called problem solution fit. So you have a problem and you have a technology that can solve it. But that doesn't mean that you have a good business proposal and that you will make an impact for the patient, because there's another step, the product market fit. So you need to get the solution translated into a product that fits into the market and that you're able to sell. And that's the way how you can impact the most patients as possible. So basically, until you don't have problem solution fit, you're not even a startup. You know, then you become a startup, which is an organization which is looking for a scalable business model. And once you got that, then you got the product market fit, you turn a scale up. We're probably right here in the beginning of being a scale up, and the rest is boring stuff for big businesses. Hopefully we'll be there someday, and hopefully we'll sell the company before that, right? So for us, once again, this took from 2014 to 2019 having product market fit, and we're still around here in 2021. COVID didn't really help too much. So what we did not have, but what I like a lot and what can help all you guys and girls that want to be entrepreneurs, there's a tool out there, basically a roadmap, a gamification that you can use to navigate these hurdles and to de-risk your company. And it's called the Healthcare Innovation Cycle. It was developed by CIMIT in Boston, which are really the institution for innovation in healthcare right now. And it has been recently adopted by EIT Health, and they're evaluating all their bigger investments with this tool. So it completely makes sense for you to look into it if you have a project, a company, and you want to be affiliated with EIT Health. That's it. And at this point, normally I say we're Mowoot and we make shit happen. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Marcus. Very interesting presentation. And what a long way have you come in 7 years. So congratulations. And by the way, to our audience, if you have any questions to Marcus, please drop it in the chat. They'll be addressed. There is one that just came in. Hi, Marcus. Such a smart product. In which countries are you selling currently? And what is the price of the product?
So thanks. We have a smart version of the product. Basically, it has connectivity. And interestingly, if you go to all the innovation events, everybody's talking about digital health. And we had this digitally equipped device. And all the reimbursement authorities, even Germany, who really talk a lot about DiGA and stuff like that, they told us, you really don't know how to pay for the connectivity part. Do you have like a minimal viable product without that? And yes, that's the product you saw. So it's smart in the sense of being simple, but getting the job done. We're really proud of that. You know, it looks analog, but it's completely digital inside, but it's also for user experience, elderly people and such. We are selling in Germany, UK, Netherlands right now with direct distribution partners. You can basically buy it everywhere from us directly. The pricing is around 1,200 euros plus VAT, depending on the country if that applies. And this pricing is basically made for the model of selling it with reimbursement. We are still 50% cheaper than all the other reimbursed solutions. For an OTC market, we have many people who really buy it themselves, but it's not the ideal pricing for an OTC market. You can if you want. And if you say you've seen me here today, you probably get a discount.
Great. Thanks, Marcus. And I hope it was Oshin Bell who wrote, so I hope that addressed the answer. And maybe before we move on to Taylor Medical, Marcus, can you also give us a little bit of insight on the personal kind of the challenge and the journey in terms of growing the team? And you know, you showed a very good, you know, roller coaster ride across the growth where you came up to. Can you give a bit of insights maybe to people who want to start similar organizations?
So yes, first, you know, I in the first draft I had a picture of me at the beginning of this program, and I just wanted to zoom in and show myself and say that's entrepreneurship. But I thought that would be too demotivating because it's really before and after. You know, entrepreneurship is a taxing activity. However, if you're made for it, if you're prepared for it, if you got a character that fits, it is the greatest thing in the world. You know, we are modern heroes, and that's the only thing we have. You know, the salary is low, work hours are 24/7. Basically, I think the important message is it is so much work and it's so difficult. You can't do it alone. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You need a good team. And having that said, most of the energy in the beginning you will lose on discussions with your team, and that's normal. You know, but you can't go alone. So suck it up, you know, try to be results driven when you would discuss with your teammates, and good luck.
Thanks, Marcus. Very inspirational. And the last question, Johan Grass has asked, hi, Marcus, can you go into more detail in your business model with the clinicians that prescribe it?
Yes. So basically, our business model is based on public healthcare reimbursement. That means usually if we get into the country, first there's private payers, so private healthcare providers that are paying in the beginning, and then it's the public healthcare. It takes a lot longer, but it's a lot more scalable. So this is a process that is not unified in Europe. We have to do that in each country, right? And in each country, there's a local clinical guideline where we need to get in, and then a prescriber can find us. You know, so it's really, I mean, if there's something that EIT Health should be working on, and I think that's on their plan, unify the European system to make it easier for, imagine if you're a startup and you do all this big amount of work of clinical studies, cost effectiveness studies, just for one market. you probably can use your clinical data, but you have to do another cost-effectiveness study for the UK and for France. And that is such a big hurdle, again, an economic hurdle for startups. And that's a do or die thing. And this is a real, a death sentence for many good technologies that never reach the patient because it's just so much, they need funding for that. And it's a difficult situation. So I always think about the song New York, New York. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And that's what entrepreneurship in healthcare is basically, I guess, because it's so much more difficult than just doing something else and selling a consumer product. If you can make it in medical devices or healthcare in general, then you can start whatever kind of business you want. That's peanuts afterwards.
That's definitely something we all should note. And Johan also asked how it is in Germany, for example. If you want to very briefly touch base on that, and then we should get moving on.
So in Germany, all this reimbursement also goes with indications, right? And for our earliest indication, which is a neurogenic bowel disorder, so these neurological patients I was talking about, we already have a private and public healthcare reimbursement. We are recommended in the official clinical guideline. So that is really the biggest medical device market in Europe. It's a really that's our main revenue right now, right? And yeah, we're proud of what we did there. And let's see if we are currently fundraising. There's also crowdfunding involved, so all you can be part of this via EIT Health or Capital Cell in Spain. And we need the funds to do what we showed we can do in Germany, to do it again in the UK, and do it again in France and all the other countries.